Welcome to Godlesspanther's deconversion video. For quite some time, I have found religious deconversion to be quite interesting. The stories from people who were, at one time, fully indoctrinated into a strict religious construct and then emerged from it, have now become a major part of the new atheist movement. These stories give us a great deal of information as to how and why the atheist population is growing in the United States. I'm not among these, I'm an exception. I'm not a new atheist. I am an old atheist. I never believed in any God sort of thing. I find deconversion so fascinating, not because I am one of them, I am not a deconvert, but because here we are, firsthand, witnessing a significant sociological change happening before our eyes in one of the most religious countries in the world. The United States as a whole is losing its religion. Then I find it fascinating on an individual psychological level. The stories themselves are fascinating. Let's take a brief look at the flip side. That is the old conversion testimonial. I've read many of these as well. When comparing the two, I've been able to determine some notable differences. The conversion story, the saved sinner scenario, follows a very specific format. The subject is experiencing some sort of life problem. This can range from mild to severe. Some describe being suicidal, drug addicted, criminal, destitute, that sort of thing. On the mild end of the spectrum, a person would describe just feeling that something is missing, or there must be more to life. The second part is the conversion itself. This too ranges in intensity, from merely being introduced into the church to full-blown bizarre hallucinations. Then we have a description of how much better their lives become after their conversion. This also varies from those who feel a bit happier now than they did before, to those who will give us the impression that before their conversion they had a life of constant misery, and Jesus has now supplied them with a blissful existence every minute of every day. Conversion stories must follow this format. The variety is in the level of intensity and some of the details, but the overall format is the same throughout. Deconversion scenarios are different in that they do not follow any particular format. The variety is much greater. There is no required predetermined outcome. This makes it more honest. Some people who leave strict religious environments describe emotional difficulties that they did not have while they were part of a group that supplies every answer to every question. There are some who describe a post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of having had such a profound change in their thinking. Others do describe a sense of freedom that they never had while they were part of the group. Some of these stories are heartbreaking. I've read about situations in which teenagers have been disowned, thrown out. I've read about marriage breakups, sudden hostility and resentment over nothing more than a change of mind concerning religious faith. Those who are currently part of a strict religious group and those who have left one have entirely different ideas as to why people abandon their faith. The religious will say things like, "You just want to live a sinful lifestyle. You have been taken away from us by Satan. You have been indoctrinated by the secular humanist world. You were never really one of us. You took the easy way out. You are mad at God. You were hurt by a bad church." This goes on, all kinds of this sort of thing. One thing that such people will not do is actually listen to or read about those who have left their faith. They will not actually go to xchristian.net and start reading. The reasons that people abandon their faith vary greatly and tend to be very unique and personal. So I'm not going to attempt to come up with an analysis with all kinds of statistics on deconversion. There are plenty of people who are working on that massive task. I am going to focus on the title of this video. There is one reason that comes up as to why people leave the churches that the faithful will never address. Christianity is creepy. I have yet to see one just come out and admit it. Christianity is creepy. Now, I'll be fair, all religions are creepy. That is one definition of the word, religion. People who get together to be creepy. I pick on Christianity because I live in the United States, where most of the Christian dope pushers live. Although I've never been a believer, that does not mean that I am without church experience. Here's my memory of the creepiest church service I have ever attended. Many years ago, at the insistence of a co-worker, I attended an Assemblies of God church. The church was huge, a mega church by 1985 standards. I recall walking in the front door of the giant building. The first thing that I saw was a big display rack filled with pamphlets. About 100 different pamphlets, each of them with an aborted fetus on the cover. Fundy porn. Seriously, I could not avoid thinking that these aborted fetus pictures were clearly a masturbatory item for these people. They had aborted fetus in deep blue, aborted fetus in C minor, aborted fetus number 17 with sparrows, aborted fetus descending a staircase, and the aborted fetus does Dallas. After that gruesome greeting, I followed the glassy-eyed and vacant-grinned crowd into a huge auditorium. The band kicked in with some mediocre soft rock Jesus songs. Sounded like any other mediocre pop music of the time with Jesus stuck into the lyrics every fourth or fifth word. Then the asshole that everyone came to see gets up there and goes on saying that God is big. Really, really big. Then some motherfucker in the audience stands up and says for what seemed like 45 minutes, and nobody understood a word that he said except some other motherfucker who translated. He said that God loves you and so forth and so on, and I was sitting there thinking, no he didn't. He said, that's what he said, and that's exactly what it means. Then they had this call to the audience asking for those who wanted to be saved right here and now. And then they came up to the stage and they started dropping and flopping and yelling and screaming and all kinds of mean, nasty, ugly things. After the ordeal, I went home and got good and drunk and didn't get up until the next morning when I went to work and told my coworker that I would never be seen going to church with him in the vicinity again. I did realize at the time that people who had grown up in an environment such as that would actually consider this to be normal. However, those who leave the faith can see in retrospect just how creepy that environment is, and glad they escaped from it. Well, what about those who are still inside the wall? Are they willing to come to terms with the fact that they are really creepy from the point of view of outsiders? They will not come to terms with it because they can't. If they begin to understand just how fucked up they look to people who are not within the fold, they will start to deconvert themselves. On some level, I think they know this, and that is why they are so hostile to those who leave the church. They understand that they too may come to a point in which they could no longer be part of their religion because, if for no other reason, it's so fucking creepy. At this point, I would like to give a huge thank you and shout out to the Living Dinosaur. After he provided a shout out video for me, my number of subscribers shot up like the mercury in a thermometer dropped in a hot tub. And then I would like to continue on this deconversion theme. I want to ask my viewers who were at one time devoted followers of a particular religious group to provide an example of some aspect of the group that you participated in that was stark raving creepy, and that you only realized the creepiness of it after you left. Just shoot it into the inbox of this channel and I will try to compile those for a video. Reminds me of the old Andy Griffith routine in which he describes a football game from the point of view of a person who'd never seen one. Very much like the Assemblies of God Church appeared to me. Now, if there's anyone who is wondering, just to clarify, I am the same Godlesspanther from a while back. I decided to start doing YouTube vids again, and I just decided to do it with a fresh channel. My old videos are still up. They're from a couple of years ago and more. I'm considering moving one set over to this new channel, and that would be the review I did on Expelled, No Intelligence Allowed. The reason for that is that this piece of shit movie keeps coming up. Creationists are still mentioning it as if it were some sort of convincing evidence that will make people reconsider science. Other than that, I'm just going to leave the rest of the old videos over there. I'm willing to take suggestions, and if there's a topic that anybody thinks I might be interested in and perhaps do a video on it, feel free to bring that up. And live your life without purpose, without meaning, and without a sense of morality, and take that as a compliment.